We're right in the midst of hurricane season, which officially started on June 1st. With that in mind, we wanted to look back on some of the most significant hurricanes to come through the Rio Grande Valley over the years. Cameron County Historical Commissioner Jean Fernandez has a history of the powerful storms in this week's Throwback Thursday.
Brenda, I'm going to talk about a subject that we are well familiar with in this part of the country. There's wicked weather a-coming, and that's hurricane. From June 1st to November 1st, that is hurricane season, and it's nothing to trifle with because it is a very, very serious issue. Back in our history, we had some monumental hurricanes that hit this part of the country, and they are, say, of course, out of our immediate memory. But let me touch on them. 1844, there was a hurricane that hit. Of course, Brownsville wasn't here at the time, not until 1848. And it almost wiped Matamoros off of the map, if you can imagine that. So that's 1844. The real one that came through that got recorded because we were set up as a community at the time was 1867. That was a tremendous hurricane. It did wipe Baghdad and Clarksville off of the map. They were at the mouth of the river. That particular hurricane was a deadly hurricane, and it just wreaked havoc in Brownsville. One particular mention was given by the Mother Superior at the convent, and she said that the walls were falling in, and unfortunately, there were about 13 of their boarders that did not survive. Another hurricane that really hit the scene here that is in still recent memory was the hurricane of 1933. That one was a very large hurricane, and it hit us almost directly. There was wide-scale damage throughout the city. An interesting little side note about that was that at that point in time, Snake King had his animal farm, zoo, and enterprise out by where Palm Village Shopping Center was. And he had lions and tigers and all kinds of beasts that were there. The hurricane broke all of the compounds down, and all of those creatures were running around the city, if you can imagine that in the chaos. Up until 1951, hurricanes were not given names. And at that point in time, it was a phonetic alphabet, such as Alpha, Charlie, and all of that. 1951 was the first named storm. It wasn't until 1987 that they integrated it and did a male and a female name for the storms. The costliest hurricane in terms of cost did not hit us that much, but it hit southern Louisiana and East Texas, was Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita. That one was $125 billion worth of damage. There were a handful of hurricanes that hit us full strength. One that immediately comes to mind was Hurricane Beulah in 1967. That one was devastating. The rain alone caused huge damage throughout the valley. The next one of significance was Hurricane Allen in 1980. And the next one is Hurricane Dolly in 2008. These were direct hits. The rain alone was what caused the mass damage throughout the valley and the upper valley, because these hurricanes had a tendency to go up the river. Now, you gear hurricanes towards their damage in dollars and in lives. The most devastating hurricane of all time was the hurricane that hit Galveston in the year 1900. The figures come through at 6,000 to 8,000 to 12,000 souls that were lost during that hurricane. So that really changed the thinking about hurricanes on the Gulf Coast in particular. The seawall of Galveston was contemplated before the hurricane. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't there in time, but afterwards, it was definitely built. I must emphasize, and this goes without saying, that when you see any kind of alert that the hurricane is on its way, don't even trifle with that fact. It is going to be damaging. So take whatever precautions are necessary. We have a long story here locally of our engagement with hurricanes, and the rest is history. For KVEO News, I'm Eugene Fernandez.